everybody. Today I want to talk about describing foods in a neutral way rather than in a negative or a positive way, and how that can positively impact the way we think about foods. So, first, what I want you to do is grab a piece of paper and a pencil or markers if you want it to be colorful, and write out 6 different foods. Now, I want these to be safe foods for you and foods that you feel like are not safe or maybe scary, a mixture of both. So, I'm going to give you about 2 minutes to get a paper and pencil and write all those out. Okay, we got about a minute left. If you need more time, no worries. You can always pause the video and come back to it. We got about 30 seconds left. Okay, so now that you have all your foods written, I want you to rate a subjective unit of distress level, called a SUDS level, for each food. So basically, what you'll want to do is write down a number between 1 and 10, 1 being this food does not stress you out, does not cause you any big feelings, nothing, and 10 being about to have a panic attack, this is serious, right? So anywhere between no stress at all to I'm about to have a panic attack, 1 to 10. So if I were to set this food in front of you right now and tell you have to eat it, what number would you be? So I'm going to give you about a minute to rate all the foods. And again, if you need more time, like, no worries, you can always pause the video. And there's no right or wrong on this either. So it's a subjective unit because it's what you think. So, that number that comes to you right away, that's the one you want to put down. Don't try to think about it for a long period of time or anything like that. Okay, you got about 20 seconds. And like I said, you can always pause the video, so no worries if you need more time. Okay, so now I'm going to give you 3 minutes. And like I said, if you need more time, that's fine. But what I want you to do is I want you to write down the first 2 words or thoughts that come up when you think about that food. So let's start with an example. Okay. So when I think about apples, I think of crisp, I think of summer. And you can all have all kinds of different thoughts to go with the foods that you have. So whatever comes to your mind right away, that's what you want to put down. Try not to overthink it, because then it won't be what your true thought is. I apologize. I have a little bit of a cold still. I've had a cold for about 2 weeks now. So my voice is still a little scratchy, but I'm feeling a lot better than I was last week. So okay, we got about 2 minutes left. Again, you can always pause the video, so no worries if you're not done. Okay, got about 1 minute. About 30 seconds. All right, so now you can set that paper to the side, and we'll come back to it in just a second. So what do I mean by describing foods neutrally? We're going to talk about that. So let's practice it a little bit after I talk about it too. So describing foods in a neutral way would be describing it in a way that's not going to affect your choice of that food. Okay, so for example, if a food is lower calorie, or if a food is low in carbs, or if a food is fried, those descriptions may affect your choice in what you want to eat in that moment. However, neutral descriptions like crunchy, brown, summer, versatile, those type of descriptions are probably not going to affect your decision of what food you want to eat that day. Not in a moral standpoint. You know, you may want something more versatile that day, but it's not really a moral thing when you're choosing that food. Whereas if you choose a healthy or an unhealthy food, there's some moral connection to those descriptions, right? Someone who is making a moral choice would go for the healthy food. Someone who is doing an unhealthy food may be treating themselves that day. You see what I mean? Like there was a little bit of a moral connection. The same if you choose um, if you choose fried chicken or a grilled chicken, right? There may be something morally connected to those two. Maybe not for some people, maybe for others. Okay. How about if you choose something with high sugar or something low fat? If you choose something high sugar, you may consider that a treat. If you choose something low fat, you may be proud of yourself for that, right? So again, moral connection, right? Whereas things that are neutral, like I was stating earlier, like let's say it is red, or it is refreshing, or it is seedy. None of those things are going to make you feel morally inferior or superior, right? Like, who cares if you eat something that's red? Or, oh, something has seeds in it? Like that's not going to affect the way you feel about yourself, right? But if you choose one of the non-neutral descriptions, good, bad, it may change the way you feel about yourself. Hopefully that makes sense. But that's why we practice describing things in a neutral way, because when we describe them neutrally, there's no moral connection, which means there's no shame, which means we're not going to restrict ourselves from certain foods based on whether we think they're the better choice. Does that make sense? So you say, okay, well, why is it harmful to choose the better choice? Well, it's not harmful to choose the better choice. I don't like to say those kind of words, but it's not harmful to eat those types of foods that you think of when you think of the better choice, right? However, what if you don't choose a food that's in the better choice list? How do you feel? How do you feel about yourself? Yeah, probably not too great, right? Or maybe you consider that you just had a treat, that you earned that food. Okay. And then what if you choose the better foods all week? And you've been craving the foods on the other list, right? All week. So you're like, okay, I'm going to have something. Uh-oh. Now it's really tempting to eat a lot of it, right? Because you told yourself you can't have that food all week because it's not one of the good foods, right? And so when you go to have a bad food, it's hard to have self-control, right? Because it's not just a food at that point. There's something morally connected to it. And then after you eat that bad food, you might feel shameful, especially if you ate more than you intended, right? But if we just said, I'm going to go eat some crunchy food, may not have that shame connected to it, right? Probably wouldn't if we truly, truly were describing the food in that way. Okay, so this is why they're describing foods as positive, negative can lead to binges, it can lead to restriction, and it can lead to shame, regret, guilt, all those things that we want to stay away from, right? If we describe foods in a neutral way, food is just food, and it's not a big deal. It's just not. If you really want a salad, great. If you're feeling a brownie, go for it, because it's not a big deal. When it becomes that way, you'll probably actually eat less of the foods on your bad list and crave the foods on your good list. I mean, can you imagine craving carrots? I swear it happens. When you really start making peace with food and start describing it in a neutral way and start looking at food as what it is, food. Okay? All right. So now I'm going to give you about a minute And I want you to go through your list, okay? And I want you to circle any description that is not neutral. So any positive or negative description of that food. Anything that would affect your choice, okay? So go ahead and do that. Got about 30 seconds. And again, pause the video if you need to. No big deal. Okay. Now I want you to go through and find the ones that you circled and you feel you would consider those negative, right? Some people would consider greasy negative. Some people would consider high sugar negative, unhealthy, high calorie, any of those things, right? So look and see which ones you described in that way. Likely the ones that you circled that are negative, if you circle one of them, you're at a moderate anxiety level. So maybe 5, 6, right? The ones that you described in 2 different ways that are negative, maybe even higher than that. A lot of times they are. So what does that tell us? When we describe foods in a negative way, we have anxiety when we think about those foods. Oh my goodness, like anxiety. Like what has our society done to us? Seriously. We should never ever have anxiety about fueling our bodies. Oh my goodness. You should never ever have to justify the choice that you're making with your food. It's food, guys, you know? I understand when some of us why some of us are there. I was there for a very long time, so I'm not judging you. I'm just really sad that the way our society is, it has induced anxiety when you're making food choices. It's food. Like, why can't it just be food? You know? And the higher the anxiety level on those are likely your binge foods if you're a binger. They're likely the foods that you're terrified of if you're a restrictor. They're likely the foods that your diets tell you can't have. Am I right? Yeah. Okay. So that tells us we need to start describing them in a little bit different way. Changing the way we think about food. Because really, it's food, right? So now I'm going to give you 2 minutes. And I want you to write a neutral description for every single one that you circled that was not neutral. And this may be difficult. But remember, any type of sensory description is going to be neutral, okay? Any type of description of the way that it's cooked or how easy it is to cook or any of those types of things may be neutral. Might not be, but it might also. Any type of color description, any type of memory description. Sometimes it's not neutral, but a lot of times they are. Cake, birthdays, right? Cookies, decorating. We have popsicle, summertime, right? Those type of descriptions. Okay, so I'm going to go and give you 2 minutes. And like I said, if you need more time, don't stress, just pause. Okay, got a little less than a minute left. About 20 seconds. And like I said, you can always pause. So, or if you're done, fast forward. Perfectly fine. Okay. So now, I want you to look at your new descriptions separate from the food. Okay. Just look through the list of descriptions. Do those descriptions cause you any anxiety? I'm guessing not. And if they did, you need to find another description, right? Would those descriptions affect your choice in a moral way? So, not necessarily in a preference way, but in a moral type of way. If they do, you need to find another description. Okay. Would those descriptions change the way you thought about a food? Now, maybe it'll change the way you think about a food currently, but would it change your opinion of the food? Not in a preference way. If it would, it's time to find a different one. Okay. Those are the questions you can ask yourself when you're wondering, am I really describing this in a neutral way? And the next time that you have these non-neutral thoughts about food, challenge it. Okay, challenge it. Notice it. Just start by noticing it if you want. Oh gosh, I called food healthy like 5 times today. Or, oh goodness, like that food, I really wanted it, but I didn't choose it because it was high in sugar. Okay, challenge, you notice those things at first. Just notice, like, how many times am I doing this, right? And then start challenging them. Okay, like, okay, I want ice cream. Why do I want it? Oh, it's refreshing. Why do I want it? Oh, it's tasty, you know? Oh, why do I want broccoli? Because it sounds good. If it sounds gross, don't eat it. You know? What do I want carrots right now? Ooh, I really want something crunchy. Perfect. Why do I want carrots right now? Oh, because they're good for me. I should eat them. No. Like, no. Eat them because that's what you want. You know, every time you want something sweet, you don't have to go towards cake. That's not what I'm saying. Maybe you want a sweet strawberry. Maybe you want a sweet grape. Maybe you want a crisp apple, you know? Or every time you want something crunchy, I'm not saying you have to go get potato chips because you don't. You could go get carrots. You could go get celery, okay? Like, there's lots of health foods, right? That are going to satisfy what you need. But if you really, really want that chip, get the dang chips. It's all right. Okay? Food is food, and your body will tell you what you need. Okay? And I know it's hard to trust. I know that. But let's stop attaching moral value to food. Because let's face it, it's not serving you well. It's making you feel guilty. It's making you have anxiety. It may be driving you to binges. It may be driving you to restrict. All things that I know you don't want in your life. If you have any other questions about any of this, email me, meet with me. Like, I'm happy to talk more about it. I'm really excited about these things, as you can tell. Okay. Well, you all have a good night. And I hope this activity was helpful for you.